Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual Coaching Summit, and welcome to my session today titled Coaching Sketch Notebooks, Designing Teacher Learning. I'm Stephanie Affinito, and I'm so thankful that you're joining my session today, whether you're listening to this live or you're watching the recording later on. Either way, got a great session for you and some ways that you can interact now and later to help support your coaching. So a little bit about me. There I am right there. I am a literacy teacher educator at the University of Albany in upstate New York. I work with students who already have their teaching certification but want to come back to get an extra literacy degree. So I teach on campus, I teach online, and I also work with local school districts as a literacy coach, which is my love. I coach pre-service teachers, I coach new teachers, and I also coach practicing teachers in multiple school districts. My big passion is coaching through technology. How can digital tools help us rethink how to build learning communities, reimagine the way we do PD, which is what we're talking about today, and help make coaching in the classroom a little bit more connected. So I'm excited to share some ideas with you today that focus on my process for teacher design and how you can bring sketchnoting into your practice to help fuel your own work as a coach. Whether you're a literacy coach, a math coach, a content area coach, or a tech coach, there's something here that I'm certain will be able to help your coaching life today. So first, I want to introduce you to my oldest son, who will probably kill me knowing that this picture is now out there on the internet. But this is Hunter. And my son Hunter has had a fascination with superheroes for as long as I can remember. And we have watched every single superhero movie that exists up to today. And not too long ago, we were watching one of these superhero-ish movies together. And, some wonderful character came in to, of course, save the world in a very daring way and put everything back together again. And he turned and he looked at me. And he's like, wouldn't that be so cool to have a job like that? I was like, yeah, that would definitely be cool to have a job like that to save the world. And he's like, don't you wish you had a job that could do something like that? And I looked at him for a minute and I thought, yeah, that would be really cool. And then I went, wait a minute. The only reason he is saving the world is because he had teachers that taught him how to save the world. So we had this little lively discussion, and I went back to something that was drawn a long time ago, which was me as a superhero, which is how I like to think of all teachers and all educators. We are literal superheroes in our own way because the work we do does have the potential to change the world. And the work we do as coaches has the potential to transform teachers so that they can keep changing the world for the students they work with. And like any good superhero, we have our nemesis, right? Defined as a formidable and usually victorious rival or opponent. And as a coach, I'd probably say that my biggest nemesis is professional development. It's my nemesis, but it's also my favorite. I love designing PD. I love designing learning experiences for teachers. However, it's challenging. How do you craft a professional development that has teachers engaged, but not thinking it's too much work? How do you cater to the teachers who need that social interaction, but the teachers who are also more quiet, introspective introverts? How do you craft a PD that works for one grade level and fails miserably for the next? PD is so complex and so challenging, and I spend hours of my days and my weeks and my months planning learning experiences for teachers at all stages of their careers with all kinds of wants as a teacher and needs for the student in their classroom. So I use the standards to guide my work, obviously. How can I design professional development that will really get teachers inspired to want to put these same kinds of things in practice in their own classroom? And so this comes from a report by Darling, Hammond, Heiler, Gardner, and Espinoza down there at the bottom that shows what works when we're designing PD. We want to focus on our specific content that's going to be immediately applicable to the classroom. We want to actively engage teachers in the same ways that we want teachers to then actively engage their students. We need collaboration, and we need learning communities. We always want to be modeling effective practice in our own coaching, and then give teachers the support they need to try that in their classrooms. We've got feedback, we want to spark reflection, and of course, we want it to be sustained over time because there are no quick fixes for anything. And so coaching is a long-term process with short-term gains along the way. And so when I think about professional learning and coaching, how can coaches design teacher learning experiences so that it fires them up and gives them the support they need to try something in their classroom? That's my love. That's what I love to do. I love that design process. And for me, that design process involves lots of tools, both non-tech and tech. So I've got to have my markers. I've got my giant box of Sharpie markers. You can kind of see it in the background behind me poking out of my case. When I create a PD, I tend to have pieces of paper, typically blank paper, and markers and sticky notes. And I take those markers and sticky notes and I jot down all of the ideas that I have. What's the content that I want to include? How do I want teachers to interact? How do I want them to engage? What kind of artifact do I want them to walk away from so that they can then use that in their classroom as a spark for students? And so I tend to get very hands-on with my markers and my sticky notes and my pages, and then I head to my laptop. And there, I look up things. Maybe there are blog posts, articles, videos that I might want to play, ways that tech can support and enhance that design process. And for me, I tend to go to Google Keep. I use Google Keep for everything. I'm very type A. I have color-coded sticky notes for every day of the week for my to-do lists. I know. And then I have little Google Keep notes for professional development and ideas that I have on the fly that I don't want to forget, and internet links that I want to save to my browser, but no, I won't remember what the name of them was later when I want to find it. So I head to my Google Keep where I have all my notes that I've thought of for PD, and I gather them out and I start to mix them together with my sticky notes and my markers and craft an outline for the professional development. But I'm also heading to Twitter. So I've got an idea in my head. I head to Twitter. I look at the things I've saved, the things that I've retweeted, so that I know I'm giving teachers the most interactive, up-to-date content I can find. And I also like showing some of these tweets and information during the session so that they can see other teachers outside of the district interacting with some of this same content. And finally, I just pull it all together. You can see my image there. I've got my laptop, my Google Keep is on the screen. I've got my sticky notes, my notebooks, my markers, and I just sort. I put content and ideas on sticky notes and I move them around here, there, everywhere until I find something that works. This process for me is more energizing than just typing an agenda. I need to live it and feel it and manipulate it so that I'm comfortable going to that PD and feeling like teachers are going to leave, feeling that this is an energizing and helpful experience. And so I've been spending more time lately thinking about that process and how I can work with other coaches so that we can help each other with that process too. And I've started to explore and really appreciate the design thinking process. I'm putting up a chart here from IDEOU. And this design thinking process is transforming, I guess. When I really think about what do I do as a coach to design PD, these are the things that I do. I have a question or a topic that I need to explore, and I sit with all of my tools, I gather inspiration, and I generate all those ideas and make them tangible. So I might not build rough prototypes about PD, but I've got my sticky notes and I've got my sketches of what I want to happen. I try it out with teachers. I figure out what works, I figure out what doesn't work, at least for that group of teachers, and then I move on, but I share my story. I document my thinking, I reflect, I post, I tweet, I blog, I share, I connect. And so this design thinking process is something that I'm really starting to explore and why it matters so much for teacher PD. And I'm also pulling in standards from Learning Forward, from ILA, from NCTE, and ISTE because of my love of technology. And so this design thinking process really has me excited about creating PD and about thinking about what are the tools that I need to do that. But here's my big question that I always ask. Does my design for teacher learning reflect my vision for student learning? So is what I'm doing in my professional development going to help teachers imagine themselves doing the same in their classroom? That is a guiding question for all of my PD design that I urge you to think about when you're planning your PD as well. When we're planning, we have so many things to think about. How much time do they have? Where are teachers coming from? Are they going to be tired? Was it a stressful week? Am I trying to pack in too much? Does my administrator need 10 minutes of the meeting for a couple of updates? But what I'd like to put front and center is, does the design for PD that I've created reflect what I ultimately would like teachers to try in their classrooms? And when you look at PD from that lens, you realize how important it is. And you realize that the design process that we take and the way we craft these experiences for teachers matters incredibly. It's one of our superpowers, right? So here are my 3 goals that I have when I'm designing teacher learning, and then I want to share one thing that I do that has really helped me reach them. So my first goal is to ensure that my professional learning experiences align with the pedagogy I expect my teachers to transfer to their classrooms. So if I want them to try a workshop approach, my PD should have a workshop approach. If I want to rethink what close reading looks like, then I should be engaging teachers in a close reading lesson themselves. It's always important to engage teachers in their own learning. We have to be active. No one wants to sit and listen to anyone. You want them to be talking. Maybe they're writing, they're sketching, they're reading, they're drawing, they're up, they're moving, they're making, they're building, they're creating. All of those kinds of action verbs, those actions that teachers can take so that they control and explore their own learning a bit. And as a coach, I want to notice and name those actions so that they see what I'm doing for their learning is very purposeful and strategic, so that they can take those ideas and instantly do them with their own students. And then finally, I always want to leave a professional development session more energized than I entered it. Now, when I leave a PD session, I'm usually a little bit more tired, but I want the teachers to leave more energized and feel like this is something that was useful and worthwhile and inspiring and something that they are looking forward to sharing with their students. And so I typically offer to follow up with support, whether it's in person or it's virtual, in very specific ways. So when I think about toolkits, how do we do this kind of work? I showed you some of my go-to tools that I use, but basically a toolkit is a space to create our coaching ideas, our practices, and our pedagogy to support our design work, because we are designing learning experiences for teachers. And so our toolkits are very unique. They reflect our individual coaching contexts, which vary drastically from school to school. They reflect the different teachers and students that we work with, the skills and the dispositions we hope to cultivate if we're a literacy coach, math, content, science, tech. And the toolkits should also include those pedagogies that we are hoping to model. So when I say toolkit, I don't mean just a binder with forms. I mean a metaphorical toolkit, I guess you will, that includes binders and forms and sticky notes and everything I need, but helps us think bigger about pedagogy. So what's in your toolkit? I've listed some of the things that are in mine. These are the tools that help me design PD and the tools that I need when I'm working with teachers to help them to engage. So good old chart paper, sticky notes, my Sharpie markers, mentor text to use with teachers, professional text, different content resources, the forms and formats we might use to coach, and on and on and on. I imagine when you think of what's in your toolkit, you have certain items that come to mind that are your go-tos. Maybe they are literally in a toolkit box. Maybe you have one of those clear totes that you cart around with you that has all of your materials you might need. So I'm hoping that you'll play along right now. If you're on this call live, you can open up another tab in your browser. You can scan that QR code, although I'm hoping my image is not where I can see it. So I'm going to bring myself down a little bit so that you can scan the QR code. And if you don't have a QR reader, you can type in this address, jot it down quickly on a sticky note, and then head to it later. It's my hope that as coaches are watching this, they'll add to the toolkit. And as people are watching the recordings, we'll watch that toolkit grow over time, over the next couple of weeks. So if you were to scan that or visit the site, you'd see a Padlet wall where it just says what's in your toolkit, and you can add a tile with your name and maybe your social media handle if you want to connect with other coaches, and give us a listing of your favorite tools. If you've got one you're willing to share, if you've got a great format, observation tool, website of where you buy all of your cool materials, feel free to attach that link so that we can all share and collaborate and learn from each other now and for the next couple of weeks. But I want to introduce you into something that has really changed the way that I design teacher learning. And it's called my coaching sketch notebook. And I'm going to move my picture back up here. This is actually mine. This is my real live coaching sketch notebook. My daughter actually bought me that journal that says start somewhere because she knows how many projects I always have up in the air and how I just need to put them out into the world. So this is my binder, my coaching sketch notebook, something that I'm going to urge you today to try, is in a binder. And inside that binder are small sketch notes that highlight coaching pedagogy for me that I could use in my professional learning sessions or even in my coaching. And you'll see they're smaller blank pages full of markers and sticky notes, two of my favorite things. And I've got tabs on the side that organize them. So things that I could pull together for soft starts to PD. You can see things that inspire teachers, get them to collaborate, to reflect, and then my coaching tools are at the end. I've got a couple of different tabs in there. And this is what one looks like. This one is called Time to Upcycle. And this was an idea that I think was sparked at a conference that I went to, and I wanted to capture it. Now, if I just wrote upcycle on a piece of paper or a sticky note to remember later, I would have no idea in 1 month what I meant, and I would lose this really great idea. So I capture it in a sketch note form. And the idea of this is that when teachers walk into PD, you have some common classroom objects out on their tables. Maybe it's a portable word wall, a pack of sticky notes, a pencil case. Anything goes here. And up on the screen, it tells teachers what their little tinkering creativity task is to get the brains warmed up while everybody else enters the room. They're going to choose an object on that table. They're going to think of a way to upcycle it. Could they make that object more productive? Could they make it more enjoyable, pleasing to the eye? Could they give it a new purpose? Could they give it a new look? How can they help reimagine some of the items in their classroom to give their classroom a refresh? And then do it. There'll be supplies on the table to try some of the ideas that you have, and then go ahead and bring it back to your classroom. Try it out and let us know how it goes. I've started PDs this way. I've worked especially well in grade level teams because the ideas that emerge from simply being creative and putting everything out there and wondering how we could reimagine some of the spaces in our classroom gets teachers energized. So you can choose the objects based on the topic you're doing. If you're hosting a session about small group reading or guided reading, then you have materials that might be in that space of your classroom. If you're talking about word walls, then you have materials that work there. Talk about social studies or science, maybe you have some different primary sources or some different materials that you might use to analyze them that help teachers rethink. So this is what I use to help figure out how I want my sessions to go. And I create these sketch notes about coaching practices. So why sketch notes instead of just listing the ideas or jotting them down in my notebook? It's kind of like an athletic coaching playbook. I have found that by sketching the ideas I have or sketching the ideas I see that I want to try with my own teachers, it forces me to think about them more. I could just list the idea. I might forget about it later, and I might not think it through unless I sketch it. But by sketching the process, it helps me think about what I need. It helps me think about the space that I need to do it. It helps me think about the time it might take. It also helps me think about what might go wrong that I can plan for. This happens when I really sketch it out and make a plan, which helps me imagine what it might look like in my PD sessions. And so I highly recommend that you give this a try. So now here's another one. This is one of my favorites. I wrote a blog post about it. It's called What's in Your Vending Machine? And this one came to me because I was stuck overnight in O'Hare Airport traveling. And I was at the vending machine at about 3 a.m. staring at it, wishing that instead of chocolate and chips and soda, it had a blanket, a pillow, and a magic wand to get me back home. And as I sat there, I thought, oh, you know, I could kind of use that metaphor with my teachers. Like when we get to a challenging part of the year, what would be in your vending machine? What do you need to feel better, to feel refueled? And so I sketched it out right there in the airport. And on a piece of chart paper, when I ultimately did this with teachers, I put a piece of chart paper, I wrote the lines all over it so that it looked like a vending machine, and then put sticky notes, blank sticky notes all over it. I did chart paper. This could easily be done on Padlet, which is why I have that note there. And I explained to the teachers that vending machines are there for those quick snacks when you need them, those quick pick-me-ups. But what do you need right now for a pick-me-up for your teaching? What do you need for a little bit of inspiration? And how can I help? How can my coaching help? And so I gave them the sticky notes and I urged them to write their ideas down. And some of them are at the bottom. Some teachers were literal. I need sticky notes. I need markers. Other teachers were saying, I just need a break. I need a 5-minute break to decompress here, now, in this PD session. Others said, I need chocolate. I need my kids to be good. I need to smile more. All of the different needs that we had, they put them up on the vending machine, and we had a great discussion about how to give ourselves what we need so that we can be there for our kids. The really neat thing that happened is that, one teacher saw that someone said, I need sticky notes and markers, took the sticky note, grabbed some sticky notes and markers she wasn't using, and then ended up delivering them to that classroom teacher later on. And this vending machine became this give and take. Chocolate popped up on teachers' desks because it was on someone's vending machine. And it's a really great way to just stop for a minute and ask teachers what they need and then move forward. But in a sketch note, it helps us be more intentional and more thoughtful in those ideas and to curate them together in a space that's colorful and has shapes. And research has shown that colors and shapes are two things that bring joy to our lives. And we could all use a little bit more joy, no matter how much we have. So these colors and shapes are meant to fuel our work as coaches, really capture the innovative ideas that we have to help connect teachers, to help them collaborate, and to help them reflect. So I've been saying that these are sketch notes, but what is sketch noting? For me, sketch noting is this wonderful, colorful, individually personalized, no wrong way to do it way to sketch my practice. One of my favorite books, if you're interested in learning more about sketch notes, is called Ink and Ideas from Tanny McGregor. And that's her definition of what sketchnoting is there. It's creative, individualized note-taking that mixes text, pictures, and formatting those texts and pictures together to have a meaning that's personal to you. So it offers you choice. It helps increase your memory and your focus. It helps you think through practices. It promotes relaxation, and it's intentional, designed thinking that can support our coaching work. You don't have to be an artist. I'm not, and you're going to see that momentarily. But there are some basic elements of sketchnoting. That the way that we use our lettering, our bullets, our framing, our connectors, even our shadowing, and the way we draw people, those matter because they help convey a mood, a tone, a theme, an understanding about the sketch. And so if you were to go on Twitter, you're going to want to head to Sylvia Duckworth's profile or to go to her website online, because she has this wonderful presentation that you can see the icon for on the left called Sketchnoting for Beginners. And it's a wonderful way to introduce yourself to what sketchnoting is and how it could help inspire you in your coaching and inspire teachers in their teaching, and inspire students in their learning as well. So I take all those different elements of sketchnoting and I put it together to help represent my pedagogy and my coaching practice and build this really great sketch notebook, this toolkit of ideas that I can go to when I need to design PD. So I created a short video, it's about 7 minutes, that shows you how I create a sketch note live so that you can see you also can do it, no artistic ability required, and how it just helps you think through some ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then we'll come back together in a few minutes. right, so I'm back. I'm going to bring us back to the presentation. You could see that there was nothing fancy about my sketch note, nothing that sets me apart, certainly from other sketch noters. In fact, mine is very low key. For me, it isn't about the look, although I'd like it to look nice. It's about capturing the pedagogy around it to help me plan work for teachers. So as you're thinking about this, I want you to think of a coaching move that you could sketch. So think about a play. If we think about this as a playbook, sketch notebook. What's something that you've done as a coach that worked really well? Was it a way that you had teachers interact in small groups? Was it a way that you started a professional development session? Was it the way that you ended it? Was it something that put a little bit of activity into the PD? What's an idea that you could share with the other coaches watching this that might enhance their own toolkit? But here's the thing. I want you to think of that play. I want you to grab a piece of paper right now and try sketch noting it. Don't worry if you don't have markers or if you just have a sticky note or the back of a paper lying around. Just give it a shot. Take your pencil. Take a piece of paper, whatever you have. I'm looking around my desk thinking what I would have. And just give it a try. Sketch note it. If you want to, I'd love for you to share it on our Padlet wall. So I do have a very basic Padlet wall that I'll click on so that you can see it, that you can add to. Now, these were a couple that were done in another professional development session, and I just kept them there so that you could see the different possibilities. And I'd love if we kept adding to this, and you're welcome to write a description about it and to post your social media contacts if you'd like to connect with other coaches around it. But you'll notice there is a space to comment. So feel free to interact and talk with each other so that we can share some of our best coaching moves and some of our best coaching sketch notes. So if you're here live, you can scan that QR code, but I will attach the links to these Padlets in, I guess, the space where I'm presenting underneath the video that you're watching, so that you have that there. And I want to leave you with this reminder right there at the bottom left. They're not meant to be perfect. I know some of us can freeze once we have that marker above the paper and want to make sure that it's just so. But they're meant to be representations of process, and process is not perfect, so our sketch notes would not be perfect. They'll be messy, complicated, they'll be real, but they'll be helpful in thinking through what you want to do as a coach. So here's one last sketch note I wanted to share, and this comes from my digital sketch notebook that I'll introduce you to in a minute. But I wanted to show you how one idea that first started in my sketch note ended up in practice. So this actually came from an idea from Pernille Ripp, who's this amazing speaker, author, teacher who talks about building students' reading lives. And she had a blog post one day that said she asked her students, what makes reading trash and what makes reading magic, so that she could do something about it. And I thought, well, why don't I do that with my teachers? You know, what makes X challenging and what might make it good? So I created it in a little sketch note. And so I have a piece of chart paper there, and I had teachers divide it into 3 columns. What's challenging about whatever the topic is? What we know about our kids or our teachers or our school or our materials or our resources. So let's try this. It's great for small group, it's great for whole group thinking, and it helps us frame our thinking around what we can control. That middle section, what we know, what we can control, what we could do, and what we could find to make a change. So I tried this, and so I just wanted to show you how a coaching sketch note might look in action. And so these are 3. We had fun with the language. We were talking about PD. You know, what sucks about PD? What do we know about PD? And what can we try? And the what sucks might be a little jarring to some of you, but it made a lot of people laugh and made us think a little bit outside of the box a bit more. And you need that. But it helped us name our challenges, it helped us own what we control, and then it helped us to change it. So ideally, your sketch notes that you have in your book will end up becoming live in real life. And then you just modify the sketch note based on what worked and what didn't work. So this is what I'm excited to share with you. I attempted to digitize my sketch notebook into an ebook format. I created it in Google Slides and turned it into a PDF so that I captured images of each of my sketch notes so that I could better share with the coaches that I work with. So I've got sketch notes with ideas to cultivate learning communities, to do soft starts to PD, little inspiration, encourage collaboration, reflection, ways to get teachers' hands, minds, and hearts into PD, and then some extra coaching tools. So this link you'll see right by the presentation. You click on it. I don't know if I made mine clickable. Oh, I did. Good. You'll see this is my Google version, but you'll have it as a PDF that looks something like this, where you can go page by page. I give a little backstory here. And then you'll see the different sketch notes that I have. And so I compile them all together in hopes that they'll help you design teacher learning experiences for your students, or I'm sorry, your teachers, and ultimately their students, and make the design process a little bit more enjoyable. So I'm hoping you'll take some time to explore that and then share your own sketch notes on our Padlet so that my sketch notebook can grow as well. So I'm hoping that you're thinking about creating your own sketch notebook at this point. And so if you are, I want you to think of a couple of things. There are lots of logistics that we can think of to make our sketch notebook personalized to us. How large do you want your pages to be? Mine is a small binder, but do you want your pages bigger? Do you prefer blank paper, lined paper, dotted pages? That matters. If you have a spiral edge, do you want it on the side or do you want it on the top? If you want it on the top, it can prop up so that you can see it or share it with teachers. On the side is a little bit harder to do that. Do the pages need to be removable? They did for me because I needed to be able to remove the pages and reorganize them as I had new ideas and the sketch notebook grew, which is why I went with a binder. Will your collection travel with you? Does it need to be durable? How durable does it need to be? Are you going to keep it inside a tote? Do you prefer paper or might you try digital and a stylus if that's more up your alley? These are the kinds of creative things that can get you thinking. If you could just pick a book that was personal to you, what would it be? And that's a little, at least for me, it's always a little exciting because I love notebooks, but to think about giving yourself the permission to indulge a bit and create something that brings you joy and is perfect for your work, just like you try to do with your teachers. I want to leave you with this last quote that, creating a sketch notebook isn't just about curating ideas. It's about curating ideas, trying out that pedagogy, reflecting, and then revising your sketch notes. So it's this living kind of portfolio of our work as coaches. So it fosters really intentional reflection around our pedagogy. And when we think about it, coaches support teachers' pedagogy all the time. But who supports the coaches? We often have to seek out our own support. In this sketch notebook, the creation of it, the living of it, can help do the same for you as a coach. So what's next? There are 3 ways that you might continue your learning or at least exploring this area. If you're on Voxer, which is one of my favorite tools, you can go ahead and send me a Vox. I'll link to my handle in the links below. But we have a literacy coaching Voxer group that just joins in and chimes in. If someone has a challenge or a question, they'll pose it to the group and hope for a response. Or I'll jump in every so often with a new blog post or an idea or a question to get us thinking. So if you would be interested in teaming up with other coaches who might want to talk about their sketch notebook, send me a note on Voxer and I'll go ahead and add you to our group. Also started the coaching sketch notebook hashtag on Twitter. So if you're trying this out and you want to share your ideas, go ahead and share them with that hashtag. Or maybe you need ideas, go ahead and share your request on that hashtag and maybe someone can send a sketch note your way to help it out. And then finally, the third thing on the bottom is a course that I've created to help you create your own sketchnote book. I think it gives 7 hours of PD credit. It's through Participate, so it's a self-paced course that walks you through what sketchnote books are, which you already know a little bit about now, but then it gives you the guidance you need to create one. And then you can take the completion of it and the completion of the course and your digital badge back to your district and possibly earn PD credits for doing that kind of work on your own, for fostering your own PD. So if that's something you're interested in, that will be in the links as well. And then my last slide is just a listing of all the different ways that we could connect. I love connecting with teachers, especially literacy coaches, especially coaches who want to sketchnote and share practices together. So my website is there at the top. It has links to everything you might need at that place as well. But I've listed my Gmail, my Twitter, Instagram, and Voxer are all the same, Affinito Lit, short for Affinito Literacy, but that made my handle too long, so Affinito Lit. And then I'm also on Facebook if you want to connect there as well. So that's it. I hope that this gave you something new to think about. I hope it energized you a bit. I hope it intrigued you enough to want to give this a try. And hopefully, once this is over, you'll go onto those Padlet walls that I shared and share your own favorite coaching tools and one of the sketch notes that you try. I'd love to connect. Please reach out on social media and hopefully we can continue learning together. Thanks so much for watching.